I'm here. Alright. Yeah.
The record button here, and we're going to try to do an intervention. This is intervention attempt number 1.
Oh,
Let's see. Evstratios, where are you on the way? Right here.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I will try to add his ad to this.
Got echo. Oh, yeah. If you can turn my voice off on the recording. I've got it set to auto record, so.
Yeah, I'm just using this. I'm just using this program called Sound Recorder.
Sound recorder.
Yeah.
yeah. Heard of that one. I think that's the one most people find when they're doing a Google search. It's the first one that turns up, or at least in early 2000s it was the case.
It's called GNOME Sound Recorder. It's a Linux thing. Now.
Oh, okay.
What is he? He is not answering. This is.
I won't answer you.
That's his actual voice. I know he doesn't sound like that, but I just got the nerd voice. I think he sounds really good.
This is an intervention. He has to show up.
Well, I'm not echoing anymore, so that's one thing.
That's gone.
Yeah, that's good. Just so distracting. Distracting.
He's taking up time where this recording is up to a minute and a half. What the hell?
I know. You got millions of listeners.
This is going to be world famous.
Millions of listeners. Get on the phone.
So I just see it. You know, I see the little dots moving on his face.
Yeah. He's like got little scar marks going up his chin. Cut marks. Where to cut? Get on the phone, damn it! We've got millions of listeners.
He will submit. He has no choice in this.
We got the president of Greece on the line, but he's not picking up on the call.
We're on a mission from God here, and he won't answer.
A mission from Uranus.
Did you ever see the Blues Brothers?
Yeah, I have, yeah. Sort of saw it when I was like 4 or 5 or something stupid.
You rejected it? What the hell? You
rejected the call? Oh, he might have just rejected it because he timed out and he's going to call you or something, so.
Yeah, right. He's not going to call me.
Yeah.
I've been trying to call him the past few days. He's not going to call me back.
Goddamn nigger, Greek Jew.
Let's see.
Suppose you have to call him a Gru. That's a concatenation of Greek and Jew.
Gru.
Yeah. Then we can live in with like, isn't it time you grew up? That echo though, it just pisses me off.
Let's see.
It's like somebody's copying me. And it's like, stop trying to catch up on my jokes.
And we wait. Well, how much time? What are you? I think you're something like 6 hours ahead of me or something like that, and
it's 11:38 p.m.
Yeah, 23:38 over there.
Yeah, that's it, Tony.
So yeah, that's 6 hours ahead of me.
Yeah, his portrait saying, "Cut my chin, cut my chin." So it's going on silent.
I don't know what to make out of this. I don't know whether, you know, this girl is his controller or...
Did you call him in advance to make sure he'd answer the call?
No, why would I do that?
You need to pre-arrange all calls to the Greek government.
I wish I could pre-arrange something with him. I wish I could be the secretary and...
Yeah. Can I speak to the Greek lord? The Greek god, I guess he's Uranus.
He already says that true Greeks don't get travel agents because their homeland was taken. So I don't know if they get secretaries.
Well, the Queen. The sound's cutting out. Are you getting what I'm saying? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm getting what you're saying.
Yeah. Because Prince Philip and all that. I guess she's a Greek undersecretary.
I'm just muting myself on my side when I'm not talking now because I guess that was.
You get the echo or something as
Yeah.
well. No answer.
So I just hit the mute button when I don't talk.
Yeah. It's funny though how much like the British Empire is sort of like being subverted or perverted or deviated towards the Greek because like the Queen's married to a Greek guy. I don't think anybody's actually properly analysed that. And
We got his take on the Greek Jewish element of the New World Order.
yeah, exactly. Because most people like to trace it with like the royal family at the top, but they would do that because that's what the royal family want them to do. But they never mention the Greek element. Like the fact she's married to a Greek and like obviously the not properly married either. Um, but how like the male's usually dominant and he's going to be like steering a lot of it to make it pro-Greek, and that's why probably we've got the gay agenda and stuff like that. It's all the Greeks' fault.
Jewish women always tend to try to be dominant. I mean,
Is she a Jew as well? I think she accepted it, said claimed that she's a Jew, but that's only just like to improve her reputation as like a witch, make her even worse.
there's speculation that the royal family is Jewish because they claim to be Ashkenazi, right? But
All right.
that some people say that was just a claim to try to bolster their status with British Israelitism, where they were just claiming to be one of the tribes of Israel.
Yeah, and there's such a fine line of distinction between Greek and Jews, like historically. My opinion on that is that the Roman Empire expelled all the undesirables into Greece, and so you got the Greek and Greeks, whatever, and you got the Jews, and you got the homosexuals, and the other sort of fuck ups and bummers, whatever. What is it? Losers, gays, bummers, and twats. LGBT. They all get sent to Greece historically. But the thing is, the name Greece sort of like gives it away because you slip on Greece, you don't get anywhere on Greece. You just sort of like Roman is like roaming, like traveling, and then Greece is like being stuck because you can't climb up things if you're stuck covered in grease. And there's phrases like stuck like a greased pig and that stupid show with John Travolta look like.
I love your alternate take on LGBT.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It's as good as any. It's better
Yeah,
than the initial
yeah.
narrative. Yes.
Well, I keep G for gay because gay is already an insult and it's their own fault if they don't realise it. If they historically revised it so it means something else, royally revised it, or historic no, royally fucked it up historically, so it means something else, and that's still their own fault, and it doesn't change anything. Not as far as I'm concerned.
Is that what the G on for the Freemason stands for?
Probably, yeah, gay, yeah. It's one of those flat Earth fucktard heads, whatever was on from the Facebook group. He was saying the G in Masons stands for gay. I wouldn't be surprised though, because the original or correct meaning of gay is simple and silly and sort of like inclined to make mistakes. And Masons have their degrees to teach them like basic stuff that people with like basic human intellect can figure out for themselves. And they do their courses and they get their degrees and like wear dungarees to show that what degrees they've done, which which is why like lesbians do that, I suppose. I don't know, but they're all like basically subhumans, as far as I'm concerned.
All subhumans. Can you elaborate?
Well, because like humans are basically people that can like think things out for themselves, whereas a Mason has to do a degree to find out the same stuff that somebody else can just find out for themselves, like going to say a public library or just by observation. It's the Masons are probably the people who stayed in the caves in the Stone Age because they were scared to go out.
Oh yeah, I mean, without the embarrassment and with a library card, you could just go learn everything that they learn.
Oh yeah, I was saying to somebody on Skype, what is represented in history is the advent of public libraries. Public libraries changed everything as far as I suppose have to start with education's concerned because you could bypass uh, the education system by going into a library and reading. I've got this phrase, learn to read and then read to learn. I just have it as learn to read to learn. So you learn to read, you go to school to learn to read, and then you read in your own time and learn from that. And the lessons you learn are on your own by picking up books that you selected, um, and studying subjects that interest you are not the same things that you'll be taught at school because school is all about attending class, and like um, fish swimming classes. You've got a class of fish, which ties in with Pisces and the symbol for Christianity, which was like a symbol of a fish. Because basically, Christians are gay, and in the sense of simple, and they don't think for themselves, and so the actual word means to follow the anointed, Christian, follow the leader sort of thing. Lenny's saying, don't get sucked uh, into crap with him. Hang up.
Yeah, I was listening to this George Harrison song called Pisces Fish or something like
Yeah.
that.
Are you cut off again, or are you gone on silent? Yeah. If Statios is called saying, don't speak to him, hang up. He's evil, sort of thing.
What? What did he do?
Well, I got a message from him saying, don't get sucked into crap with him, hang up.
You need to ask him to elaborate, and better yet, ask him to come on the call and elaborate because I'd like to hear this.
Yeah, I would say Seek the Truth wants you to join the call.
Tell him that I want to air this all out. I want to.
Air his underwear. It's the underwear. Underworld air.
Don't misconstrue that. I don't want to be the heir to any throne or anything.
Air to his toilet. Air to the throne.
It's a trap. Don't do it.
No.
Yeah,
He thinks he's Admiral Fish Face out of the Star Wars series.
don't give people a chance to tell their side of the story. We don't want any of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Anyhow, the public libraries only got introduced in 1852, and that was, I think, isn't that when the Learning Protocols or the Elders of Zion was introduced, and also when the Rothschilds started making their appearance in the media. But I think that was all calculated for them to have that presence in the media to divert from the importance of public libraries. Uh, as an example, it's going to be for other things as well. But it's so so everybody's like, oh, Rothschilds, oh, Rothschilds. It's so important. I mean, like, when you translate Rothschilds, you get the devil's children, and Jesus Christ had the big problem with the devil's children. But seeing as people obviously don't bother reading the Bible, because before the advent of the public library, the only people that could read were supposedly the priests, and say, and the only time they'd be reading is when they're doing like Sunday service or reading from the Bible, and you only had their word for it, the good word that or spread the word or whatever, that what they were saying was accurate. And because the peasants or whatever, the illiterate, the unwashed masses, didn't read, they didn't write either. I mean, I don't think they even had signatures, most of them. I mean, William Shakespeare's signature with an X, but sort of like besides the point. But they, because they couldn't read or write, they had no record of what they did, and so you could literally make the same story up, every month, and people will fall for it because they couldn't read and they couldn't tell any difference. And so I imagine that they'd be reading sermons and stuff from the Bible, and there'd be stuff that's like too difficult for their flock, because the sheep, Christians see them, the Christian priests see themselves as shepherds, and their flock as sheep. It's just quite strange that the truth movement doesn't pick up on that so often.
I think the word pastor has a tie-in with basically leading a flock.
Yeah, yeah. Moved to pastures new, and pa- Louis Pasteur and pasteurized as well. Like made sheepish. The English language is full of those phrases, and yeah, tend to my flock, and Welsh shepherds tended their socks at night and all that sort of thing. They made a joke of it out of the that song about the nativity, but it's sort of like flocks and socks, and because you wear them out. um,
Red Shield and the lady in red and in the Matrix.
yeah, yeah, but I think that's all a media setup. I don't think they were like that powerful. I think they basically sort of won that deal. Like it was set up. Like we'll get these sort of sort of middle class to upper class family to win this amount of money, and then give them massive. We'll allow them to have massive publicity, because since 1850s, um, the Rothschilds been all over the media. But the thing is that the proper, ruling class or whatever, apart from the fact they're not even like physical, they just manifest in physical form. But they're more like, was that? You still there? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm here. It appears that Stratios has removed me as a contact.
Weird. But
That's a first, because he doesn't usually do that. Usually, even if someone is his worst enemy, he wants to have his
yeah,
his thumb on you, and he wants to make sure that he keeps tabs on you.
that
And
was that was partially my idea of like keeping people always recorded. And it doesn't matter like what your opinion was of them. If they talk to you, then you record them as they talk, sort of thing. It's sort of a bit more mature than whatever he's doing,
I,
or
I've
maybe he's
I've
more.
got no problem with that
Yeah,
because if I say something to you, then I've got no issue with anybody else hearing this if we're talking about other people. Now, if
yeah,
I was talking about stuff that's personal with you, just dealing with me,
yeah,
then maybe I might say, well, don't record that. But
yeah. If it was like sort
that's,
of like a shared girlfriend or something, ugh. That
I'm
sounds pretty
here
nasty. But
discussing
yeah, something personal
Strat.
between
Yeah,
us. Yeah, yeah. Then
yeah.
yeah,
So if
obviously you
we're
wouldn't,
talking
but
about Stratton and all that, he deserves to know when I'm talking about him, and I'm not doing any of this behind his back. I don't know what's going on in his life. I get some of the reasons why he's mad at me, but
yeah, yeah.
I don't think he's answered for some of the stuff that he did when all that went down, and he just wants to blame me, and I'm not the only person to blame in all this.
Yeah, yeah. He's got a problem with the police and stuff, and it's quite weird. 'Cause,
Well, yeah, I
uh,
mean, from what I've heard, he had police several times knock on his door, and if they don't have a warrant or anything for you at the time, then you just refuse to answer, and they'll
yeah,
they'll go away. But
yeah. Anyhow, yeah. Before 1852, 99% plus of the population couldn't read or write, and they got all the sort of basically the Bible was basically a news book, because they couldn't read or write, so they couldn't tell any better, and priests got away with like telling all sorts of fibs, and they would just probably introduce. I'm just using psychological analysis, but they'd use Jesus as a scapegoat. There'd be and blah 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 blah. Oh, and Jesus, yeah, Jesus fought a lion. Yes. Oh, that's what woken them up, sort of thing. When he's talking to the flock, he's got to keep the flock reasonably awake because he doesn't want them drifting off. If they start drifting off, they start daydreaming. If they start daydreaming, they might think of resenting him, and they might possibly uprise against him because he's in the nice warm stone house, and they stink, and so they got to drop lavender in the church and stuff, and they're sort of basically the unwashed masses. So the priests are automatically in a sort of like a privileged position. So he doesn't want to lose that. So he'll just make up stories about Jesus, which is pretty much what the Christians did in Roman times as well, because there's no evidence that the Christians in Roman times could read or write, because there's no reason for them, because they were mainly slaves. Well, in fact, like
Right.
old slaves.
And most of the world at that time wasn't literate. They couldn't read or write.
Yeah, it was a total privilege given to the few. I mean, they would be like what some of Alex Jones would be calling the super elite or something like that. The people that can actually read or write. It was only royalty, people directly connected with royalty, like royal historians. And what a royal historian does is he will write the history of royalty. He will write history in royalty's favor. And so historically you have like Prince so and so invented the telegraph pole, or know and then the next time they have a king come in power, it'll be like, no, actually I invented the telegraph pole, I want your reports to reflect that. And so on and so forth. And like, just the historical accounts of you know people in royalty like having ridiculous claims to things. I think there was like medieval accounts of like tamed the wild unicorn and discovered the fabled beast of the east or whatever. And they didn't know what the fabled beast of the east was, but they knew that like a lot of people were talking about it. So they had the story reflecting the fact that the king tamed it. And then the next king would take over, and it'd be that's stuff that I can't accept. We can't have that person, my predecessor, having all that attributed to him. I'll take that, and he can be the inventor of the catapult or something like that. And that's what royal historian does. He put everything in the benefit of history. So his historians, isn't that historicity or historianism isn't exactly a really honourable sort of pastime, but it does have the advantage you've got to be able to read and write. And it's I'd say a royal historian was less respectable than say a monk. But then the monks sort of, they always they had a larger peer group than royal historians would have. So I imagine their stories reflect that. They're a bit more credible as a result of that. Although there's plenty of evidence that Bible stories are made up, and then people say, "Oh, the Holy Bible," when there's so many books that they didn't include in the Bible series.
Yeah, I mean, people think, some people seem to have this idea that it's written in this sequential order, and that when Moses or whoever wrote those books was writing that down, that he was intending this to go in the Bible, and
Yeah.
then all these people come down the line, and
Well,
Joshua and
priests will actually
Isaiah, and
priests will
then
actually sermonize it as the word of God. Okay, sorry. You were saying something, but I couldn't hear you a second. Yeah, the priests will actually sermonize it. The priests will actually stand behind their lectern or whatever. They'll do their speeches and actually say it's the word of God. When there's like maybe it says it in the book, but that's just a lie. Because if that's the case, why are there so many different writers contributing to it? And it's like, oh, you know, he says his words in different ways, or he's got a funny accent.
right. Some of it leads you to believe, like, you'll see it say that Moses talked to God face to face, like
Yeah, yeah.
a man talks to a friend, and then you'll see elsewhere that no man has seen God, and it's just really weird. You get different ideas about God all throughout the film.
Yeah, It's sort of close to like the Wizard of Oz, where nobody sees him face to face. He always hides behind a screen. He's got different face for. He will sort of like gather intelligence on people. The Wizard of Oz did, even the Humbug one, but from the four cardinal points. North, east, south, west, and so he will get a sort of profile on these people that want to visit him, like Dorothy and the other. I think it was three. I suppose that's counterpoint or something to the Cardinals. Um, and so by the time they turn up, he will present them with sort of an adversarial figure um, or something else that's designed to get a reaction out of them that he wants. So I think for say the Cowardly Lion, he might have been like a scary face, projecting a scary face. For the Scarecrow, he might be like a more intelligent, you sort of person, like or maybe really stupid, but really strong. It was always done as a reaction to it. But then I'm sort of look,
He's ruthless to the guy who has no heart, or
what's
no,
that?
not ruthless. I mean, compassionate to the guy who has no heart, or
Yeah, the Tin Man. Do you know the story of the Tin Man though? That's in the book. I just not in the movies. So I didn't watch the movie. I've seen a bit of it, but it's conflicting with the book.
I'm sure it is, but I haven't read the book.
Oh well, the story of the Tin Man is this man who really fancied this woman. He's like madly in love with her, and what he wanted to do to prove himself as a man is like chopping wood, because he's like real showing himself off to be a real manly man, and because he had human failings, he possibly weak heart or something. He would make mistakes when he's chopping wood, and so he chopped his leg at one point. He had his leg replaced with a tin leg, and chopped at the other leg accidentally. While he's working, and had that leg replaced with a tin leg, and the same with the rest of his body. It either it was basically his body failed him every time. So he he lost his heart in the end, I think, because he maybe maybe he tried to kill himself or something. I don't know, but he basically became like a robot, all because he had these feelings for that woman, and so he needed to get his heart back so he could come back to becoming a human, because he was just like this working machine, just working himself to death for this woman. He probably, you know, spoke to him like once every 20 years and didn't even know anything much about him. Part of the fact that he's a woodsman.
I sent Stratton a message here to. It didn't show up in this log thing, so I don't know if he got it or not. But ba- and basically saying, "Well, hey, I know that you're angry about some stuff," and I said that I wanted an objective third party while we hash this stuff out. So
Yeah,
I mean, it's good to just have an objective third party there. Listen to, well, what the hell's going on, and but I mean,
he's
I,
still
I don't know.
he's still typing. He's still talking stuff. I need to go to the toilet for a minute. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay.
All right, speak to you in a bit. Yeah, what I was saying about the Tin Man is that most people think it's he's like I need to learn how to love. That's where you get the old story about the robot who needs to learn about love, or the aliens that need to learn about love. That's where that all seems to spring from. But the thing is, he already knew that, and he needs to learn to love less, sort of thing. He needs to have more feelings for himself, have more self-respect and all that sort of stuff. That was sort of the lesson that the wizard was going to teach him. So it runs totally contrary to what people assume, because the Tin Man is an obvious metaphor for the robot, and people say, "Oh, the robot, he doesn't know what love is," you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, all the other characters are totally misinterpreted. as you'd expect, really. I think when they made that movie, they knew that it'd go over people's heads, so they made a movie for the masses, sort of thing. So it was perverted, because they see the masses as perverted people. Yeah, I got messages from Lenny, and they're all like a bit weird. But
Yeah, what do they say?
um, okay. I sent Seek the Truth wants you to join the call. He goes, but I won't. I will track him down and beat him to a pulp if he contacts another friend of mine.
Oh my god.
I'm just like, what? I know. Then he like distracts it by going about Lennon honors, like Lennon honor, niggers with attitude, straight out of Compton and a critical analysis. And then he says, I will attack him directly if one word or anything in any medium about me is revealed to anyone or anybody or published on the net. Well, just
Well, too
whatever.
bad. This stuff's going to be published on the net.
People talk, whatever.
He has the chance to come on here and redeem himself, and
you
that's the
know,
fact of the matter.
who do you think you are, Lenny? Prince Philip? Do you think you're royalty or something? Do you think you're on a secret mission from royalty? You got secret messages from royalty. It doesn't like sort of jive with his whole sort of like freedom, truth bollocks.
He records everybody, and that's just the fact.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I've got no problem with that happening, but if
I
he's
don't either. What I
yeah,
say to him,
when you got that
saying
sort of two-faced attitude of like, if anybody talks against me, well, it's sort of like you sort of like almost expect them to. That's sort of the reason that you do it. So they talk against you, and then you hear it, and you go, "Oh, I didn't realise I was like that." It's sort of like global village thing. I don't know. I don't know how to justify it. I thought it was self-evident why it'd be advantageous for people to record each other when they talk, because for me, people say stuff spontaneously in private conversations that they won't necessarily remember at a later date, or they'll come up with some blanket reason to not say it. I don't want so and so overhearing it. When there was no real reason that they shouldn't say it in the first place, and it's more important to get the actual true feelings or thoughts or opinions out, because then that's something to work from.
Ask him why he's scared to tell his side of the story.
Seek the Truth wants to hear your side of the story. I can send him.
Our listeners deserve that.
You sound like Jeff Renson.
We're objective here.
We fight for justice and truth. What are you fighting for?
We want to know. We want to know exactly what Abstratios is fighting for.
Could Eustratius actually beat you to a pulp? Or do you need like boxing gloves?
Boxing gloves. Oh
Or knuckle dusters and stuff.
Beating me to a pulp. Oh my god. He's not going to beat me to a pulp.
When people say stuff like that, I think they're either joking or they're demented.
I'm not going to say he's demented.
But you're not saying he's not demented.
I'm not making any statements here. This is up to him to come on here and.
It's his forum. Oh, sorry, that's a Roman word. It's a crappy Greek word.
He's the guy who won't show up.
It's the Lenny Bruce show.
Yeah, it's like we're the guest hosts here while he's away on vacation or something.
Yeah. 40 odd years in the making of the Lenny Bruce show. It's just about to do his first show, and he's like over half an hour late.
Let's see. I had to use the bathroom too, but I started recording as soon as you called back, so.
Okay, I mean, he's not. I think he's pretty much given up, but he's not going to go and say anything. Yeah, so. Well, if anything happens, then call me. I'm going to go out soon, so Yeah, unless something happens, and we'll just like leave it at that at the moment. Unless you know somebody you want to call up or anything, make it more interesting. Just for
Has he said anything else or?
no, Seek the Truth wants to hear your side of the story. That's what I sent him, and there's no response. It's sort of, I'll just go silent now. Silent
What did he
creasing.
say? He just went missing after that.
No,
He
I
didn't.
said, I said it's silent greasing. He's silent greasing. Yeah, he went silent. Yeah, there's nothing. I attack him directly. If one word.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, let's see. Who do we got on here? We've uh,
But everybody's always edgy about talking about royalty. I've got no idea why, because they're obviously not the royalty. You know, royalty is in reality. They're obviously
Royal
the fake,
Canin, yeah, yeah.
the fake reality or whatever. Just like everything else is fake. So obviously the royalty, isn't going to be true either. When everything's arrowed to, or pointing towards Israel, Israel, is it real? And Satan is known as the king of deception and all that, and everything's about lies and truth. And why should you back the royalty when there's no reason for you to do that? I mean, they've
Let's
probably
see.
already been promised that they'll have riches in the next life or something, but you'll find out soon enough that you've been lied to when you just die and you'll just be a sack of bones in the dirt.
I've got David McDowell on here, and I've got CFR to Hell, and those are the only two people I could think of that we could contact here. But
Yeah, could do. We just call it a day, I think, for now, and then do something else. See if we could twist his arm,
I mean,
grease his arm.
if we're gonna invite him back to the call at this point, I mean, you'd have to be the one to throw him in there in the future because he's removed me. And,
Yeah, after he beat you to a pulp and all that.
I mean, maybe after he beats me to a pulp, then
Yeah,
I'll get the privilege of getting him back on
yeah,
Skype.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. Just be like, whatever it takes, Lenny, whatever it takes, as long as I get you on the call.
I'm your friend. I'll do whatever it takes for our viewers out there.
Yeah, for our fandom.
I'm a bit surprised that after being persistent, he didn't answer and at least say "fuck off" or something.
Yeah, that'd be more normal. It's like, fuck off.
Fuck off, thank you very much, or that'd be something he'd do.
I don't want you recording my voice.
Well, that's too late. He's recorded too many people.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's sad when people have rules for one people, well, rules for everybody else, and another rule for themselves. And then they will go on about democracy and truth and freedom and justice and all that sort of stuff. And it's total meaningless. It's like crap out of their mouths when they don't apply the same rules they apply to other people to themselves. It's like they've never heard of the word hypocrite.
No.
Oh, sorry, hypocrite doesn't apply to them, does it? Because the hypocrites were like some tribe of Israel or something. Right.
Hypocrites.
Yeah, Hippocrates or something. The Hippocratic Oath or Hippocratic Oath.
He's a Greek. No.
Well, yeah, the hypocrites were in the Fantasia, weren't they? In the Sugar Plum Fairy. The hippos dancing in tutus. Unfortunately, they've got their most amazing sort of occult analysis. But the thing is, sort of part of the reason being self-taught, so I don't even know the proper word for that. I think it's like ecumenical analysis or something, but I can just find out the most deepest, darkest Africa, the deepest, darkest secrets of a phrase or whatever, because it's like all in my memory bank sort of thing. But I don't even know the words for what I'm doing sometimes because I'm not trained, educationally. I'm self-taught, but that gives me a big advantage because if you can define yourself in a certain way, then people can trace you from that and use that against you. Like if I was taught a specific way at a specific school, then they can get in contact with the teachers or lecturers or whatever, torture them for a bit and find out, how and what they said to me. That brought me along to this way of thinking because they can't do it, obviously.
Okay. What are my options here? I've got him on Google Talk, but
I don't think you can trick him into talking to you.
but Pigeon here won't make calls out on this, so I'd have to look for another. I mean, it does it on XMPP, but for
Oh
Google
yeah,
Talk here, I'm not seeing an option to call him, and
you're using Linux, aren't you?
which I'm surprised because I've done calls on here with people
Yeah,
with XMPP, and I'm pretty sure that that's the protocol that Google Talk uses. I could be wrong.
yeah.
So maybe, I mean, there's an option to add this as an XMPP service rather than using its predefined Google Talk service. And
Oh, there is one other thing I could mention about education is the fact that me studying computing and learning computer programming or whatever, I'm learning C sharp, and it's not C sharp, it's called C sharp, and I'm trying to get UV planar mapping working, and I found that all the tutorials on it have been deleted. I mean, I don't think that I'm the first person who wanted to do UV planar mapping in C sharp. I mean, it's such a basic thing. Anybody who wants to write a modeling program was going to have to learn how to do UV mapping in various formats. And finding various things in Unity just don't exist. Like axis rotations are set to the world axis as far as I know. And if you need to learn how to do rotations, you've got to do geometry classes, do specialist like Illuminati courses at degree college at Mason
they got
University.
to tell you the subtleties of the Earth's rotation.
Yeah, it's all contrived. It's like they deliberately withheld it, and so I posted into Unity Answers, my problem, and I got no response at all so far, even though 30 people are following me. But it's the question isn't that weird. I mean, it's quite an obvious question, but yeah, the whole UV mapping thing is quite weird as well because if you do UV planar mapping, there's zero distortion. If you do it with triangles, it's absolute 0% distortion. But loads of people have got their careers based on fancy mapping, and they have like mapping for like faces and stuff, human faces or animal faces, and it's all fancy mapping, like pages and pages of equations. I've been through the documentation on it, and there's pages and pages of equation. I think it's LCSM mapping and all this other wacky mapping, and there's absolutely no reason for it at all because it's not 0% distortion. Whereas UV planar mapping is basically where you take every face of an object. I mean, objects are broken into faces like a cube is 6 faces. You have 8. You have the each face is going to be directly facing the camera or some other object. So it's it's got zero distortion. So you basically take a snapshot of that, go round to the other face, spin that round so it's facing you directly. A snapshot of that and go on to the next face, next face, next face, next face. And it shouldn't be that difficult, but it's really there's no direct way of doing it in Unity. It's ridiculous. I know I'm doing like angle mapping and all this sort of stuff, and it's bizarre. But I find quite a few problems with that, like basic programming problems in C sharp, and it's like somebody's deliberately blocked it. And I
Have you? I mean, have you heard of the YouTube channel Jera Wyatt?
White.
Yeah, Jera Wyatt.
Is this
J A
the
R A
is it?
H.
It's not the guy who talks about Alan Watts occasionally, is it?
No, no, no. He talks about moon landing stuff, and he did at least 2 videos, like 2 parts at least, on uh, NVIDIA moons their customers, where they basically he goes through and shows that they modeled the reflectivity of the moon wrong.
Yeah.
So they screwed up this modeling to prove that. I think it was regarding the astronauts in the shade.
Yeah.
Yeah. They deliberately set values that were too high on the reflectivity of the moon's surface. I'm pretty sure that was the error. And people had no means to check that through the program because they locked all that off.
Yeah.
So he used other means to get these values, and I can't quite remember how he did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of what you were talking about here, just about how precise this is, but you can't find anything to do it that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's 0% distortion, and all the methods they have percentage distortion. But the thing is, if you look at UV maps of face, or like human faces, if you're Google searching for it, then they look all pretty, and the artist spent hours and hours putting perfect details on it. But the thing is, they're not doing it, the methodology is wrong. They're doing it from a human perspective, where it's like, oh, we'll make in order for a face to be correctly mapped, human face, to be correctly mapped, it must look like a face. Well, no, not at all. And they're using basically, when you're mapping stuff, you're putting a three-dimensional object on a two-dimensional plane, so you really want to get everything planar, and every triangle is planar. So every triangle has its own plane and it doesn't escape from that plane. So you basically, well, this is what I'm doing. I transfer everything into triangles and then have every triangle facing directly towards the camera or some other object that I'm projecting of, and so then it's 0% distortion. Then I'm sort of shifting them across or whatever, but I didn't go that far. But I mean that part of the theory is sound, and it's just weird that nobody else has thought of it because it's really bloody obvious. And they're doing all their fancy mapping, spending hours on it, and it's all distorted. And there's loads of things wrong with it. Like if you say, okay, I like that, but give him a spot on his cheek, and so you'll put a little spot on the cheek, with the 3D painting program, but because you've distorted the mapping on the character's face, then it will appear as a big splurge on the side of his face, like an oil bleed sort of thing, all over the side of the face, because it's not 0% distortion. It's just ridiculous. Just they do all that, like thousands and thousands and thousands, millions of man hours basically wasted, just so it looks nice. For somebody to be looking over their shoulder from, somebody that doesn't understand computers or how 3D graphics works. It's like you like based your whole career on like impressing your mum or something. It's just ridiculous. It's just crazy. But I'm just basically going to blame the royal family for that. I'm going to say it's the Queen's fault.
No, it's shape-shifting lizards.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's them saying, "Oh, do you see that statue there? That's me."
So I mean, your whole perspective is it's all just to show off on their part, and then that sacrifices accuracy, right?
Yeah. It's all about looking good. But it's the illusion in Maya is the to paraphrase somebody else, is valuing form over substance. It's all about surface appearance. So that ties into what I was saying about the UV mapping. It's all about they have these nice little pictures of their guns with the little highlights over the corners of the gun barrel, and it's all like done perfect, pixel perfect. Oh, it's wonderful, and you got like 30 shades. Oh, got 30 shades of grey on the side of your gun. It's so good. When you could just use specular mapping, plonk that over it with basic sort of spherical shader, and it will do it all for you. The computer does all the work for you, because what they're doing a lot of the time is they're just duplicating work that the computer can do better than they could do it. Because when you put all is as if you try to do an oil painting, put a motherfucking oil painting onto a human face, then you're stuck with that and the lighting and the shading and all that goes with it. And so then if you have the lighting interacting with that image, then it looks silly. But if you do it in such a way, you just got the sort of the basic, this is how it responds to light, this is how it responds to height, and so on, and let the computer do the work, then you have a image that looks not so good when you're looking at it as image files, which means absolutely nothing, really, because it's all paid off by the sort of runtime improvements. As you put it when you send it to the computer, you'll get so much more better, so much benefit from that because it's got the dynamic improvement of as the lighting passes over the object, it's reacting to that lighting, whereas way 8 of it, they got it all looking like pre-lit. But that's what they did in the 1990s, but people are still doing it now, which is absolutely ridiculous. Just because they started their course, they finished their degree, and they learned how to put in baked lighting, which is what they call it when they put the lighting and everything else into an image. They call it baked, as in like Baker Mills and all that sort of stuff.
I'm all for aesthetical standards, but you see a lot of computer programs in general
Yeah.
being a lot heavier on resources than they have to be because they just put all this extra stuff and making it look pretty, and it's kind of like this veil of illusion surrounding it. I mean,
Yeah.
compare Facebook with Facebook Mobile. You can visit Facebook Mobile in your browser by just putting m.facebook.com. It has basically, I'm sure there are some exceptions, but it has basically all the same functionality that the regular Facebook does, but it's a lot lighter on resources, and you'll
Yeah.
notice that.
Yeah, I mean, because if you actually study this stuff, you find the actual definitions of what the computer's actually looking for are a lot simpler than what the artists are producing. Like a color map is the color returned when the from the angle of refraction. You got the incident angle of incidence and the angle of refraction or whatever. And so the color map is the color returned when light bounces off an object. So for a human face, all you'd need is their basic skin tone, plonk that on the whole face, and you've got your color map. But what artists will do is they'll put in like all the little distortions of like how wrinkles might affect the skin tone and stuff. When all you do is you do a different map, say a bump map or something, or maybe a specular map, which will put in the wrinkles, but you don't need to add them onto every single thing. Make it all looking nice for your imaginary girlfriend that sits on your shoulder. Because I've listened to these people talk on YouTube and stuff, and I've listened to like gamers talk on YouTube, and they're like blatantly possessed with little demon ninjas and stuff on their shoulders, and it's like, oh, how's it going? Oh, hello, Mr. Toad, and oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, you picked up the magic sword, and they put on these like voices like that, and when they're playing games and stuff, and just totally wacko. Lost all connection, like practicality, because society's got this myth that artists have got to be a bit mad, and they got this I think it's called dichotomy between the left and right hemisphere of the brain. But what I found quite mildly interesting is L. Ron Hubbard. If you take his initials, you get LRH, and I usually associate that with left and right hand of God, but it's also left and right hemisphere. And so LRH is when you got the two hemispheres of your brain working in concordance, or is it accordance? I guess it might be concordance. So it's got nothing to do with submitting to demons in your brain or anything like that. That's just a Jewish fairy tale. along with the family, because the family had been dead and buried. I mean, the family are dead as the dinosaurs, but their family are kept alive in TV. Because you won't see any science fiction. I haven't read any science fiction stories where the family's promoted. I think there was one written by Robert Heinlein in the 1950s, but apart from that, the family's dead. I mean, it's all government families. Like you're brought up by the state, children of the state.
Oh, totally. Watch Star Trek, and there's no concept of family there.
Yeah, yeah. But the Jews want the family structure to still remain intact because it's so full of their lovely complexes and neuroses. And your daddy doesn't want you to do that. Your daddy thinks you're a loser. You gotta get a proper job, and you gotta marry. Yeah, you gotta get married. You gotta get married to somebody who looks like your mum. All that sort of stuff. It makes me a bit ill, actually.
Yeah.
When you actually break it down, it's all
that's what
incestuous.
Sigmund Freud was all about. That
Yeah.
he said that you go after what reminds you of your mother and just sick stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I know, but even his name is part of a Jewish conspiracy. Like Freud is fraud, almost fraud.
Sigmund Freud, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, he's trying to trick you. I don't know what they call it, but it's sort of like a basic reversal in the brain functions. It's sort of like his fraud is implicit in his name, so that helps you not to take him seriously.
So
You
is that what you
dissociate.
think about? Is that what you think about Edward Bernays? Like the nay is telling you no, don't listen.
I didn't actually bother with any of the Jewish program on that one because I heard that one. I heard mayonnaise and all that sort of stuff, and I was just like, that's Jewish bullshit. But I mean, because Sigmund Freud is so associated with Jews, I thought he would have a name that's going to have some sort of Jewish connotations. The Jews can use your name. The Jewsery.
Jewsery.
Yeah, Jewish usury.
We handle Jewish issues here at whatever this radio show is called. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Maggot Truth Show, I guess it's going to be called.
The Maggot Truth Show. There you have it.
You have to call yourself Dr. Nambu or something. That confused people. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, cause so you got the Jewish sort of stuff like projecting at people, and basically the way I see it is that will inflame their Jewish heritage or whatever, because in their past they probably got Jewish blood, and so the July vision will inflame that, and it will give them all this crap about families and mothers and fathers, and in movies and on TV you'll just always see storylines of like, you killed my daughter, you bastard, or
Well, they go either two directions on the whole family thing. What they'll do, what they kind of did in the 50s with Leave It to Beaver and all that, is create just this impossible standard that nobody can aspire to, so that when they don't aspire to it, they just give up on the family. Or you have them go the other direction where they just show this totally dysfunctional family. Like years ago, I was watching these episodes of Home Improvement, and
oh yeah, yeah.
the whole thing is about just them being dysfunctional.
Well, Home Improvement was them trying to rebuild it, actually. Home Improvement was about him trying to set atavistic standards. So I think atavistic is basically a translation of primal, but it's like, back to basics sort of standards. He's actually trying to bring it back to the family life, and it's like, oh, a man could be a real man because he's doing like carpentry and tying it with like Christianity and all that crap. But the most destructive to the family show was Married with Children.
Oh my, yeah, that Fox aired that.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that wasn't even aired directly. They would say it was aired, and then they would broadcast it elsewhere in America, because they wouldn't dare to show it live, sort of thing, or immediately after it was ready. And so all complaints be redirected because yeah, we've already shown it. Doesn't matter. Yeah, that was just so anti-family. I thought it was great.
You thought it was great.
Yeah, Yeah, with like the daughter that's born for porn and all this sort of thing.
Wow. No, I mean I'm not into that message or any of that. You have
I picked up on it, but I thought it was great because it's so countercultural. But
well,
Jewish programming isn't countercultural. I mean, it might seem to be, but it's trying to get you more deeply entrenched, like the Death Star. Did you hear about Death Star when they did Star Wars? They made it's basically the Death Star's two hemispheres joined together, but because of the molding of it, it had this what became the trench. But the trench was just where they put the two hemispheres together, and it had this um, indentation along the molding area they had to do for the size of the model. So apparently the trench was just a big accident. But the trench was like one of the best bits in the film.
you're saying with Star Wars, I haven't really watched much of that.
No, I saw A New Hope. I've seen all them all, but I didn't really like them. I just thought they were sort of visually and audiophonically or whatever. Sound wise is really good, but I didn't like the storyline. And one other thing about Star Wars is Mark Hamill. I wouldn't have watched it if I knew he's gay, because they kept that all covered up in the UK that he was like bisexual or whatever, and they didn't have those photos of him like holding a rainbow and stuff. Because apparently, yeah, well, I've seen them now on the internet, but he's like got a rainbow above him, and he's like bending a lightsaber blade or something. And there's other photos of him like looking all bug-eyed at a gun, like it's a dildo or something. But I know I never saw those pictures in the UK. They kept that all covered up. They didn't want anybody to know that he was gay and pushing the gay agenda. But
Yeah, if you have any links on any of that, just send them my way. I didn't know about any of that.
well, I saw I think there's on Tim Rifat's site on Psychic Warfare. He's got photos of Mark Hamill looking really gay. But yeah, apparently that was something that all Americans knew. Oh, I thought everybody knew that. Oh, you didn't know that. Yeah, yeah, rainbow power. That's what it's all about. And yeah, it's like the gay son, like Batman, his gay son, Robin. So they call it Grey Son, but whatever.
Gay son, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm just I didn't expect any,
Shocked and appalled at the Lenny Bruce.
yeah, I thought that if I called him enough times that I was gonna crack him today and he was gonna show up and
Yeah.
we were gonna talk about this like adults and he was gonna tell his side of the story and I was gonna tell mine. There'd be no backbiting or anything like that going on here and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just surprised that he didn't want to do it. I don't know what he has or hasn't said about me, but all the stuff I've said to him hasn't been uh, behind his back. Everything has been, let's see, these friends of his, I'm sure they told him about it, and that's fine.
Mm.
Don't care if they recorded me or any of that. I didn't record them,
Yeah.
but because I was, let's see, with CFR to Hell and David here, I was out, I was talking on mobile, and I guess there's probably a way to record that on the phone, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And there used to be this program on here called Skype Call Recorder on the computer, but I guess that's gone.
One of the three tools, yeah, probably when
It's
Microsoft
not,
took over.
it's
Yeah.
not around anymore. I mean, I saw a link somewhere online where you could download the package, but it requires obsolete versions of packages that I can't get anymore. So
All right. I'm using it for on Windows, and I got the professional version. I don't know what it does. It's better than the non-professional version, but I'm using that at the moment. It seems to be all right. I haven't tested it for more than a 5 minute one, but it's recorded the last bit of conversation we had. It was like 20 odd minutes long, so that seems to work all right. It works with video as well.
Yeah, this here is see, we've been recording 36 minutes and 13 seconds.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, the very beginning of the call on this second call here got cut off. I started that as soon as I could. You were in the middle of explaining something, but
Oh yeah, yeah. I carried on afterwards.
and but all together here, we're up over an hour. The last call was 28 minutes and
28 minutes, 57.
46 seconds,
Okay.
and this call here is over half an hour. So we're
Yeah. Oh, it's annoying that Lenny didn't call, but
I don't I mean I don't understand it because I'll just put this on, just air this out here
Mhm.
as soon as I left South Carolina and came back to Illinois. He talked to me.
Yeah, yeah.
He said,
It's weird because what I do when I talk, especially on shows, it's like I expose stuff, and people should know that about me by now. I mean, I'm 40 gundam years old.
he
You know.
showed he me and him were messaging back and forth after all that, and he seemed a little upset because he needed to figure out transportation and how to get to some places, but it didn't seem like he was going to be mad at me forever. He was
Yeah.
there was some other stuff going on and other people involved that I don't want to
Well,
bring up.
I know that's the way the perverted royalty work is. They'll find something in your past or something, some perversion of yours, and then they'll use it like a sword of Damocles effect over your head. Um, that's a phrase I actually coined. You wouldn't hear that normally, but sword of Damocles is basically when they've got something on you, they'll have it over you, all for could be for the rest of your life.
This only makes sense if uh, he just for some reason decided later that he was going to use this as a reason to be upset, and he's just wanting to be upset and wanting a pity party or something.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
it
exactly.
only makes the second way that it makes sense is if someone came to him afterward and caused agitation here and used this uh, to just turn the situation even worse, and he's rolling along with that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
It doesn't make much sense except in those two circumstances which I can think. I can't think of any other way that this makes sense.
Well, I think it's all related to the tar baby. See, if you reverse the letters tar, you get rat baby, which is associated with Prince William, who's associated with quite a number of nasty things. But I mean, if you can't guess at rat babies something nasty, then
I mean, I understand that I put him in a tough spot, but how come he was willing to message with me right after that happened, and then afterward, when everything would have settled back down
yeah,
and should have been better,
yeah.
is when it got worse. I
I
don't.
know, I know, I know, because whatever people do to me, I just ride over it, sort of thing, like sort of like a tank, I suppose. I mean, in a sense, I didn't care about myself, like damage done to myself. Like emotionally, I can just get over it eventually, and I'll do it in my own time, sort of thing. Um, because sort of life itself's more important than was it the slings and arrows that people throw at you, sort of thing. So that doesn't really bother me because a lot of that's down to your own perception of events. I mean, you might imagine that people were malicious towards you when they were actually angry at somebody else and they were just taking it out at you because you're the first person they saw afterwards, sort of thing. There are endless excuses for people, but yeah, there's no reason to get hung up about it. I mean, it's only emotional damage. It's not physical damage, and even physical damage you can get over it unless you're crippled. But I never
He,
heard anybody being physically crippled by an insult.
he conveniently just forgets all the bullshit that I dealt with when I was down there, and conveniently just forgets that when he wants to get all mad at me. And I don't know if he said anything to other people about
Yeah, yeah.
the situation or not. I mean,
I
has he
don't.
said anything to you about it? I
No,
don't know.
he's hardly mentioned anything much at all of any consequence. But apparently, that's the Hebrew method, is where you'll ignore certain details or facts in a case, and you'll just concentrate on, say, you ignore somebody and they committed suicide. They'll just concentrate on the fact that you seem to ignore them and they committed suicide, rather than the fact that you didn't see them, or they were in another room, or they were in another country, or you didn't know them. They would ignore stuff that's obvious truth, whatever, just because they want to hurt you, and that's the Hebrew way of working. So I don't know. Maybe he's trying that out. I don't know. He's not behaving so very rationally.
This is not a show. I mean, I'm really kind of upset that he probably blocked me on there. That's probably why I can't dialogue with him
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. I know what you mean, because the Hebrew method as well is where they will make it seem like a show. It'll be like, well, ha ha ha. That's just you. And it's like, no, I got like 30 people saw you do that, and so on and so forth. And, like, what about the next 12 years? Yeah, we always talk about the past, don't you? Yeah, I know. It's strange. He's like adopting other people's methods, I guess. I've seen it with other people that I avoid, but they'll still try it. But I don't think I could see myself as being like friends with them, sort of thing. But yeah, Hebrew, he Jew.
I've never tell anybody, hush, hush, now, don't tell him anything I talk to you. I mean, I've never been that way about any of this.
No, I mean, there's nothing special going on like between people that hasn't happened like a million, billion, trillion times before. There's nothing new to it.
I mean, I just, I dealt with a lot of crap, and there was stuff that's going on, and I had way much more than I felt like I could handle from an emotional perspective. I just couldn't deal with everything that was piling up the way it was, and I had no other way than to just up and leave, and I felt bad. I feel bad for how I handled
So you
that.
sort of walked off from it, but you see, I can't see why there's any problem if you just like walked away from something. It's too bad. It's too much for you to handle. Is if you lashed out at him, then okay, yeah, well, fine. Then he doesn't like being lashed out at. Like if you hit him physically or something, then maybe he's got a reason to not talk to you because he doesn't like that memory or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you literally just walked away, that's
I had
ridiculous of him. It's like it's like are you actually married to him or something?
I had an issue with a friend of his down there, and that's half of the deal here. And I'm not going to go into explicit details, but I'm just gonna say, and he knows this to be the case. So if he's going to listen through this recording,
Yeah,
I'm going to say this to remind him that uh, I I wouldn't have things wouldn't have gone down the way that they did if his friend didn't try to drag me into some of the crap that he was doing. He was trying to get me to go that direction as well.
mm.
And if he wouldn't have kept trying to push me in that direction, I wouldn't have said a word about it and caused that shitstorm that came. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's basically what came down to it, because I wanted to defend myself and distance myself from those actions. So all I knew how to do is say, well, look, he's doing this and also trying to push me into all this, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. So his friend ended up threatening to kill me over all that. And
Yeah.
he said, if you, I was told by Stratton that he says that if you're ever in South Carolina again, that he will kill you. And I believe that.
Yeah, yeah. So you're basically trying to like sort the situation out, sort of like disarm the Lenny bomb, I guess.
I was just trying to disarm what his friend was doing and trying to pull me into a lot of
No,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, what you're doing since then is you're trying to disarm the situation before something nasty physical happens to you.
No, I mean, I don't think anything nasty and physical is going to happen to me. I don't think the person in question knows where I'm at
Yeah,
or anything. So, and even if he did, I don't think he would jeopardize uh, his job and stuff like that he has in order to do this. But
oh, it's strange. I can't even begin
I
to.
don't think he really meant it. So, I mean, just putting that for anyone out there, I don't think he really meant that he would do that per se. I don't know. I would fear for my life if I was in South Carolina, but I don't think that he'd come out here and do any
Yeah.
of that.
Well, as far as I know, Lenny isn't that important anyway. He's important in his own mind, but
Yeah. Well, he thinks he's pretty important.
yeah. I mean, that can be enough. But
You know, there were a couple times where I had to say, "Man, calm down. You know, you're not that important." And you know, he's knowledgeable about a lot of things, and I give him that. And he uh, shared with me a lot of information he had from his years of research, and a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
it
yeah,
was just spot on. And you know, there are other
yeah.
things to him that I disagree with at this point.
Well,
When I
didn't he accuse me of like knowing all sorts of weird stuff, like knowing about the subway systems and stuff like that?
Yeah, he said that you knew the schedule of the subway system or something like that, so
Oh
that
yeah.
you wouldn't have to be embarrassed or something if someone asked you.
Um, I don't even know what he's talking about.
I don't either. I didn't try to.
I mean, in England, you have to put up with weird shit like that a lot of the times, and people will say like weird stuff to you, and they would assume that you know so and so's because like you had a nervous twitch when you walked past them, or and all that sort of thing, and they'll come up with stories that just basically pulled out their own anus, and that's pretty much way things are in England. But obviously in America, that's like all big deal. Suddenly it comes up with like, yeah, I don't know. Subways. I can see it's a really crude metaphor for something, but I'm not even that person, so I d-
He would tell me that you would run into elite figures or stuff like that while you're out at a bar or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I met a few of the Rothschilds and stuff like that, but that's how it come I can say stuff about them. Because I wouldn't just say that as some sort of like twat in the background or whatever, like some random crowd person. Yeah, I met Eugene Meyer de Rothschild or Rothschild or whatever.
So
Uh,
you met the Red Shield guys.
I met some of them, and I know how to recognize them in the movies and stuff like that. I mean, like Avengers: Age of Ultron is basically the Rothschild Five. you know, um, you got Charlotte the Harlot and Teddy and David and at least one fake John.
You know, we would have called this Lenny's Voice Radio or something, but he
Yes,
didn't show up.
Lenny speaks the show.
Lenny speaks. There you go. That would have been a
Yeah,
good title.
million views instantly. You go.
You know, maybe you could make the title Lenny speaks and put in parentheses or not or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could almost do it as a Maggot show. I'll worry about that later on when I've finished it. I mean, the Maggot show is totally spontaneous, but that was my favourite show that I did. Um, Call Me Maggot or Maggot Talks, most likely.
Maggot talks. Yeah, and you could do that as one word. You could use the T at the end of maggot to go into talks. I don't know.
I can do it like that, but it also has to do with Torquemada and stuff like that. But the Maggot Talks series is basically when people call me, I call it Maggot Talks. No, when people call me, I call it Call Me Maggot. And if I can't remember if they call me or I called them, I call it Maggot Talks.
Where'd you get the name Maggie?
Maggot. Well, apart from French word meaning God, I also remember Jesus saying that if he was reincarnated, he'd be as the lowliest thing that walks or crawls upon the face of the earth. And also, it means Maggot, so like magic got, in a three.
Yeah, Magic God, because Gott is God. Yeah.
Yeah, in German. Oh, yeah, in German. But before I even knew German, I knew it's got as in like to get it. Because yeah, the thing is, I mean, like people sort of like date things from the truth movement, but I was already like ahead of that. I mean, I sort of like was born awake sort of thing. Like, I was like born without eyelids or something. Um, I'm not literally. I have got like eyelids, but I mean, I had no growing up or waking up phase in my life. I was already thinking like an adult from
Well,
moment
to me, it was
I
gradual.
could
I mean,
walk or
there
move.
was stuff that I always questioned, and I thought was weird, and I kind of, I don't know if I talked to you about this or not, but I always kind of thought it was weird when they said in school that, well, the sun is just another star, and somehow the, gravity is just keeping things sticking on the side
Yeah, yeah.
of the Earth, and that stuff didn't really make sense to me at the time, but I didn't.
I've always been questioned by questionable people, and I've always had a way of speaking that sounds like one thing to one person, sounds like something else to somebody else. Um, I think it's vaguely related to like the magical child and all that sort of thing by Aleister Crowley. But way I would have seen the magical child as a child without reading anything by Aleister Crowley was that the magical child is a talented child, and then that will tie into Star Child. I mean, you've heard of Star Child, obviously, Star Child theory and all that sort of thing. But Star Child is the name given to the most promising or talented person in a group. Um,
And ever since, it was, I was either in middle school or the first years of high school.
mm.
When I first ran into the moon landing stuff, I always had questions about that. And then, so I mean, for me, just all throughout my life, it's been this gradual thing where
Yeah, I mean,
I can't at any one
moon
point say
landings for
that.
me. I mean, I would read about the moon landings, watch stuff about the moon landings on TV, and I'd think, well, if we landed on the moon, why has nothing happened since? And then I would eventually come to the conclusion that we must have not ever landed on the moon, and then I'll be like, man, a moon, because there were programs on TV like the Moomins where they gazed at the moon, moon gazers and loads of other things where they don't actually say they landed on the moon. I mean, in Space 1999, the moon escapes from Earth, so just so the Earthlings can't claim they ever landed on the moon, sort of thing. Um, and so. And then I heard about stuff like the drawing down the moon, and the moon is wisdom, and all this Jewish stuff from like Yesod. Um, But that wasn't that difficult for me to find because there was a game series on the Spectrum called Ark of Yesod or Node of Yesod. Um, and so all I needed to do is find out what Yesod means, which is like moon for second Sephiroth from Maggotaur, um, which is the Earth. And, I basically go from there. And it wasn't that difficult. And it was even in the magazines that produced, magazines. That was another code. It's like the first three letters. And I discovered basically the three-letter code. When you take the first three letters of a word and you find out the prevalence of it, it's sort of like repetition and memory and stuff that you learn off school. Is where they say the same word again, 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 makes it more important. So like yeah, magazine, magenta, and so on and so forth. Magician, magic, and mage. All that,
Age.
yeah, yeah. All those words have the mag at the beginning. Magnet, and I had a sister called Annette as well, and I already heard of her, Maggonet, you know, um,
You
which is a
could do that.
Comcast.
You can make your own alternative to the internet and call it the magnet.
Yeah, I mean, well, because the magnet is 1 and 0, isn't it? North and south, on and off, positive and negative, and the internet is digital, which is the same thing as said before. So it's already magnet. The internet
Right,
is already
one and
magnet.
zero. This comes from. You also have this in the Chinese Book of Changes, where you have the yin and the yang line. So you have the broken and the unbroken
Oh,
line.
the yellow king and the hexagrams and all that sort of thing. Yeah,
So this works. That's a early form of binary.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, I did a story where binary is basically superior to analog because, although it might sound wrong at first, but if you get binary working fast enough, then it's more accurate than analog because analog's got the problem with deviation. If you rely on analog, then you're sort of like relying on the deviation. It's all
Well,
to
you
do
think
with
about all
demons and
hardware
stuff.
can do, all an electric circuit can do is on or off. That's
Yeah.
all it understands. There's no intermediate state.
Oh
So
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah. But
get the
analog
use out of
circuits,
it by
analog
counting
circuit.
binary, and you can kind of get an idea on that by counting binary
Yeah,
on your fingers. Where if you just use your fingers and you count in base 10, then you can only count to 10 on your fingers. But if you use binary, you can count to over 1,000, I think, on your 10 fingers. So
That's interesting. Yeah, because I was shushing you for a second, but because there were things called like variable resistors that you'd have on like analog circuits, and like Tesla and Edison, they're all about analog versus digital, and like people saying, oh, analog's better. But the thing is, analog isn't better because analog you will get a signal of 46 and it'll be translated to 54 because some bug crept on the circuit board, basically, and that'll happen all across the line. And they've had that problem with like TV transmissions of analog, is they'll have to like reverse engineer what happened that was wrong in the transmission in order to get the back the proper color signal. But you don't get that with digital because digital's always checking. It's like checksums, and it'd be like, oh, we got this signal for red that is just totally bollocks. It doesn't match with the rest of it. It's we ignore it. Try again. That's all to do with codecs as well, which is another thing. But yeah, I mean, basically, digital is superior to analog, but digital needs more work. Needs to do more work to get a proper signal, but it will be better than analog because just browse through all the VHS recordings of TV shows. If you watch, if you were like playing them 10 against each other on the same screen, you'd see 10 different representations of the red, green, and blue on the screen. You'd see um, one that'd be almost blue, one that'd be almost red, and one that'd be almost green. Depending on what the deviation was on the VCR, and same with the sound as well. Everything that was picked up with analog is always subject to corruption, signal corruption, and sometimes often from the source. But at least with digital, you're getting a direct signal from the source because it's also checking it. It's like I'm going to reject that because you give me a value of green that's like 258 when they got a range of like 0 to 255 or something.
yeah, have you seen some of these smartwatches?
No.
It's really terrifying because I almost think that they call them a watch because it's watching you. I
No,
mean,
I need to go for a wee actually. Yeah. Back in 2 minutes. I want to go out as well. Speak to you in a bit.
yeah,
Large major stream of images. I've I've installed Ever there. It's like a recording thing, so I'm just trying to test out the recording. It's only recording like 10 seconds, 13 seconds now.
This is. I don't. I don't think I do see it on a plate. I think you're right.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I just did a Google search and I couldn't find it anywhere. I
I
thought that,
can't either.
yeah, and I don't think you'll even find I don't think you even find images to say the United States on a plate.
There. I mean, this could be intentional, just image censoring. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that'd be,
Well, what I was saying is I think it's like a visualization thing because they don't want to have the image of a flat Earth when you're eating, especially because like when you're eating you that the whole digestion thing going on. It's like mentation. You like when you're eating like feeding the worm. Because like the digestive tract is like this big worm. It's like 9 foot long, isn't it, or something? If you go from the yeah the two entrances or the entrance and exit. um, and so they don't want you like thinking about the Earth as a flat object. They want you to think of it as a ball. I don't know, Spaceballs. Maybe that was
Spaceballs.
maybe that was a reference to it because he that Mel Brooks he'd know a few things like like Jewish secrets, and in the Bible it says about I don't know, isn't it like doesn't describe the Earth as a sphere, or it does in one place and it doesn't in another, so it's sort of like it's not exact. Well, it's
No,
not
it doesn't
not
describe it as a
consistent.
sphere.
It doesn't.
No, it never.
No.
It never describes it as a sphere. It says it's flat, and it says that there's a. It's basically a dome, uh, above the Earth, firmament, and English translations.
Well, like a hemisphere.
Where if you read what not read like if you look at videos of these rocket launches, uh, the rockets will never just go straight up. You always
Yeah.
see them angle, 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 angle. All of a sudden, it's laying complete. It's going completely on its side. The rocket, and that's what it's doing. So some of the speculation is that firmament, the ones that go out of eyesight, those are the flights that they call successful, and the
Yeah.
ones that don't make it out of eyesight, they're not successful, and they go and crash into the ocean or something.
I got you. Yeah, yeah. So if it
So why do you
yeah.
think these rocket launches are always near the ocean? That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, because then if it stays in sight, they can crash it and say it was unsuccessful and land in the ocean.
But this kills everything. I mean, this kills the the Big Bang because did the Big Bang go from the center of the Earth and branch that it just doesn't make sense with that model, and uh, it just makes the Earth the center of everything. You
Yeah,
have it down at the bottom, immovable, and then you have these stars rotating every 24 hours in the Earth's sky.
yeah. They
It
sort of
just
like
places.
spin around on an axis, don't they? That's like um at right angles to your vision as you look up.
It makes you doubt evolution and just all these other things.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
you don't have to be some fundamentalist Christian or something to get this. That oh my God. In fact, most of them avoid that. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Kent Hovind said that he would not accept the ball Earth or the flat Earth, and it was one of the questions he answered after he got out of prison this year.
Who was that, Kenneth?
Kent Hovind.
Okay, can tell
He
me.
was one of those. He was a Baptist type who did that young Earth creation and all that.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that seven day Adventist thing. I mean,
No, not Walter Weith. Not Walter Weith. No.
okay. But I mean
He
the
was some
seven
Walter.
the 7 day creation thing is that they some idiot believes in what Jordan Maxwell said when he said the week begins on Sunday. because like the sun started everything.
Disconnected, but
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the third one is something else. I mean, if you read, I don't really want to spoil it if you haven't read them, but it's interesting. I mean, I really enjoyed the first two books. The third one is difficult, but in places, but it's still entertaining. It's quite a stretch to believe it because it goes all like pagan, basically. And he's like talking with the spirits of Mars, sort of thing.
talking with the spirits of Mars.
Yeah, well, it's the moons of Mars sort of invade Earth, but in their aspects of fear and panic. I think Demos and Phobos. Yeah, Phobos is fear, isn't it? And Demos is I just think that's demonstration, but it's like panic or something.
A little bit sure. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the actual names of the moons, but he's written it as they are actually those sort of like emotions return, sort of like on Earth, and they demand this and that and do these experiments on the Isle of Wight, and it's all like sort of like harp gone insane.
I don't. But like when it comes down to Mars and all that, I haven't even seen any evidence that it's anything other than just basically a moving star in the sky. So the ancients, you had stars and you had wandering stars, and
Yeah, yeah,
the so the wandering stars are what they call planets now. Now
yeah,
you notice with Earth, what they do, that plane means a flat surface, right?
yeah,
And they go and put a T on it and call it a planet, and everyone becomes deceived.
yeah, and everybody thinks it's curved all of a sudden, like the cross is curved.
It's just
Yeah, yeah,
total nonsense when you look at. I mean, you have to people have to depend on on NASA's images, which the ball Earth, they all they did was they fake it in the circle window when they were just flying over. They're probably in some kind of airplane or something. Uh, cover, I mean, they had this round insert in the window, and you could see it on that movie. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen that.
So I mean, that's all we have, and that same photo that they faked,
Yeah,
they use over and over and over and over again.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because that's the thing with Colossus and the Crab is it's full of like extra details that prove that the guys knew what they're talking about. I mean, they knew sort of like that the truth would be obscured about things. Like there's a list of people whose past have been distorted by history recently. Like Alexander the Great was from Macedonia. He wasn't Greek and all that sort of thing. And he would just throw it in as like a sort of like a background to a person's character. But it's there so that somebody's later on is going to pick up on it and throw it back on a Facebook page, and get people really pissed off. Especially because when I did it, like I did it day before there was loads of immigrants going into Macedonia, and then immigrants went to Austria, and it was like a list of people, historical people, and all the places they mentioned were all places that immigrants headed towards. Within like a day or so of me posting it, but then the person I sent it to delayed posting it, and so it was like a day late. But even so, it's still almost exactly the same time. It's almost like they'd already heard that this book's got really important information, but like Masons and stuff, they're not allowed to talk about it or act on it until the right time, until they get the nudge or whatever, until they get the go ahead.
Ask Ask Stratius what he thinks about Macedonia. It's funny.
But
He went loony because I